This is 5 in 10 from Skywatch TV. I'm Derek Gilbert. 5 things you need to know for this Monday. Item number 5 today is Israel. Today, sundown, Israel time, marks the beginning of Tisha B'Av, the 9th of Av, a day of mourning for Jews as they commemorate the destruction of the first and second temples in Jerusalem. It's also a day that some Western intelligence analysts believe will be the beginning of Iran's military response to the assassination of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran on July 31st. As of this recording, contradictory reports. There are some that claim that Iran's new president, Masoud Pezeshkian, convinced Ayatollah Khamenei not to respond, or at least not yet, to delay it by a couple of weeks. Others citing Israeli intelligence sources saying that the attack may begin within days. And again, there are Western intelligence analysts who believe that the attack will begin with Tisha B'Av to remind Jews of the destruction of the first and second temples. While we're waiting to see how this plays out and praying for peace, not just in Israel, but in Iran, in Gaza, and elsewhere around the world, we note that the Palestinian Authority wants to get a United Nations General Assembly resolution outlawing Israel's presence in Judea and Samaria, also East Jerusalem. This is what the world calls the West Bank, because formerly it belonged to Jordan up until 1967, lost it in the Six-Day War. Channel 12 in Israel reports that the Palestinian Authority wants to ask the UN General Assembly, when the body reconvenes in New York next month, to adopt the International Court of Justice's recent ruling that Israel's rule in the, quote, the Palestinian territory occupied since 1967 is illegal, and that Israel is obligated to end its presence in that territory as rapidly as possible. The International Court of Justice is the highest UN court. Its rule on July 19th is non-binding, as would be a General Assembly ruling, but there are those in Israel concerned that the ruling could snowball and lead to international pressure on Israel for arms embargoes and blacklisting of settlements, businesses that are located in Judea and Samaria. That is the biblical heartland. 80% of the Bible's history takes place in Judea and Samaria, the so-called West Bank. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, numerous cabinet ministers, settler leaders up and down in Judea and Samaria, the Jordan Valley, have condemned the ICJ's ruling. Some are calling for a formal annexation of the West Bank as a response. Netanyahu said, and I quote, "The Jewish people are not occupiers in their own land, not in our eternal capital, Jerusalem, not in the land of our ancestors in Judea and Samaria," end quote. Again, Israel took Judea and Samaria from Jordan in 1967 as part of a war. Israel was attacked by Egypt, Jordan, Syria, captured it. Jordan formally renounced its claims to Judea and Samaria in 1988. So I don't know where the ICJ gets the idea that somehow this belongs to somebody other than either Israel or Jordan, which has renounced its claim. But this is Israel we're talking about here. Logic doesn't always enter into decision-making. Topic number 4, the red heifer. Speaking of, are activists preparing for the third temple? This photo of Temple Institute activists were taken. This is in the city of David, preparing for the red heifer ritual. This is the ritual briefly described in Numbers chapter 19. It was expanded upon by rabbinic tradition in later years. Muslims are upset about this, because a third temple, were it to be built, would have to be put on the Temple Mount, either on the site of the Al-Aqsa Mosque or the Dome of the Rock. Either way, doing so would essentially be an act of war. Now, this photo is being circulated around social media, and it is somewhat amusing that it's causing such fear and consternation, because that cardboard cutout that was standing in for the red heifer is neither red, as you can see, nor, if you look closely, you will note, is it a heifer. This is a steer. I'm a city boy, and even I know that. Topic number 3, UK police. The long arm of the law, does it stretch all the way across the Atlantic? Apparently, with riots in multiple cities across the UK over the past couple of weeks, you'd think police in Britain would have more to do than coming after Americans, posting mean things on social media, but you would be wrong. London's Metropolitan Police Chief warned that officials in the UK will not only crack down on British citizens for commenting on the riots in ways that are not approved, they will try to extradite citizens from other nations. Metropolitan Police Commissioner Sir Mark Rowley told Sky News, "We will throw the full force of the law at people, and whether you're in this country committing crimes in the streets or committing crimes from further afield online, we will come after you." A reporter for Sky News asked him to clarify, and he did double down and say, look, being a keyboard warrior does not make you safe from the law. Yes, what he means is the British government is actually threatening people in other nations who post things on social media that they consider inflammatory and would extradite or attempt to extradite citizens from other countries. Now, look, as an American, I thought we'd settled this issue in 1776 with a reminder in 1812. Apparently not. You can see the direction society is going as so-called liberals, so-called progressives, who are neither liberal nor progressive, are actually trying to build a one-world government and crack down on free speech, because that's not conducive to a dictatorial government getting its way. Topic number 2, credit. Contrary to reports from the White House, the economy here in the United States is not great. Evidence: we've reached an all-time record high in terms of credit card debt. U.S. consumers now own a record $1.14 trillion in credit card debt. $1.14 trillion in credit card debt. That is an increase of, well, more than 50% over where we were at the beginning of 2021. Things went down in the pandemic lockdowns, 2020 and 2021, because we were getting stimulus checks. But now that those have run out, we are using our credit cards for everything from gasoline to groceries, and it is adding up. That's an increase of $1.14 trillion, an increase of $27 billion over the second quarter of 2024. Or the first quarter of 2024, that is. This comes amid worries of an economic downturn. The job numbers that came out last week, not great. There's a bit of a panic in the market. Last Monday, as I told you, the so-called Black Monday scare triggered by the Bank of Japan raising its prime interest rate by 0.25 percentage point. Americans have increasingly been relying on credit cards. 60% of Americans used credit cards to buy groceries in 2023. You do not want to put food on your credit card. That is a desperation move, and it's not sustainable. Even worse, the average interest rate of the credit cards that we're using is now at an all-time high, 24.84%. And more Americans are falling behind on our credit card bills. About 7.2% of cardholders went into delinquency during the second quarter of the year. That's up from 5% in the first quarter of 2024. That's not all. Debt owned on auto loans has climbed by $77 billion over the previous quarter. Mortgages, rather, up $77 billion. Auto loans up $10 billion, according to the previous quarter. Total consumer debt now in the United States, $17.8 trillion. That's roughly equivalent to 1 year's GDP here in the United States. Again, not sustainable. Coming up, science. Is there anything they can't figure out? They've actually done research now on the physics of paper cuts. Next on 5 and 10.
Ladies and gentlemen, you can easily and conveniently stream this incredible new film, Void Earth: Cataclysm Before Genesis, right now at skywatchtv.com/stream or on the mobile app for immediate access. However, if you'd like to receive your own hard copy on DVD, Skywatch TV is proud to announce the Void Earth Ultra Collection. When you order this exclusive collection from the Skywatch TV store, you'll receive the brand new documentary from Defender Investigative Films, Void Earth: Cataclysm Before Genesis, along with Dr. Thomas Horn and Reverend Donna Howell's best-selling book, Before Genesis, The Unauthorized History of Tohu Bohu and the Chaos Dragon in the Land Before Time. These powerful works present astounding revelations like no other, taken directly from the Word of God, the conclusion to the events of Genesis that merges all contributing voices from not only the young and old creationist groups, but the scientific community as well into one balanced and agreeable climax. They reveal precisely how ancient archaeological sites like Göbekli Tepe and the Doorway of the Serpent point irrefutably to an intelligent race of beings here on Earth thriving before the time of Adam and under Lucifer's fallen dominion. They pull back the veil on exactly what the Earth was like during the without form and void era of Genesis 1-2, and so much more, featuring Dr. Michael Lake, Derek Gilbert, Reverend Donna Howell, Gary Stearman, and the late Dr. Thomas Horn in what would become his last documentary appearance ever. But that's not all. You'll also receive 315, The Genesis of All Prophecy by the legendary Rabbi Eric Walker. This prophetic, convicting, and heart-rending book exposes anti-Semitism as Satan's plan to eliminate the Jews and the catastrophic consequences the world will face if this agenda succeeds. Sold separately, all of these items hold a retail value of $75. Yours now for your donation of only $45, which includes free shipping to all U.S. orders. So don't delay. You can scan the QR code on your screen using the camera app on your phone for instant access to this special opportunity. You can also visit us at skywatchtvstore.com or call 1-844-750-4985 and ask for the Void Earth Ultra Collection now.
Item number 1 today, the physics of paper cuts. Yes, researchers have now explained the physics behind why some paper is more dangerous than others. Now, this was done not with volunteers willing to be sliced for science. They did it with a gelatinous replica of human tissue, but they found that a thin sheet of paper buckles before it can cut. Thick paper, sort of like a dull knife, doesn't really do a good job of cutting either. They've determined, after repeated experiments, that a thickness of around 65 micrometers was sort of the sweet spot, or perhaps the ouchie spot, if you prefer, for effective cutting. This is going to be published in a peer-reviewed journal called Physical Review E. This, by the way, this sweet spot for thickness of paper for danger was the thickness of dot matrix printer paper. You remember the stuff that would come out in these long sheets with the perforations on the sides? Explains a lot. Paper from various magazines, a close second in the scientists' tests. Rather than trying to find a way to make paper safer, they've actually sort of embraced this. They designed a 3D printed tool they called the paper machete. The paper machete, which when loaded with a strip of printer paper, serves as a single-use knife. The blade cuts into cucumbers, peppers, apple, even chicken. The cutting-edge device could serve as a new type of cutlery with very low-cost replacement blades. It could also lead to some danger with officers of the law. I mean, that stack of old magazines in your garage might become justification for a visit from your local SWAT team. Recycle. This week on Skywatch TV, week number 4 of our series about the new documentary from Defender Investigative Films, Void Earth. Features Donna Howell, Dr. Tom Horn, Dr. Michael Lake, who's a guest on the program with Donna and yours truly. And we talked this week about what happened to the dinosaurs, continuing a conversation from last week's program. They pose a problem if you believe in creation, which we do. How do we explain that away against a biblical narrative that seems to point to a creation somewhere around 6,000 years ago? There are explanations. We as Christians, as those who believe in a God who spoke everything into creation, we don't need to be afraid to address these answers. We're not bending the scriptures to fit science. No, that's not this. You have to watch the programs and watch the documentary to get the answers. You can catch all 4 programs in this series right now at skywatchtv.com. All of our video content is always there. If you watch over the air on one of our partner Christian networks, our broadcast schedule is posted at skywatchtv.com/channels. Now, if you've got a set-top box like Roku or Apple TV, make sure you've got the Skywatch TV channel installed, because that brings all of our video content, including these daily news updates, right into your television. Or better yet, you can watch over the internet too, by the way, youtube.com/@Skywatch Television or rumble.com/Skywatch TV. But better yet, get our free app. Download it to your smartphone or tablet, and that brings all of our content right into your device, bypassing the gatekeepers of big tech and adding some other features as well, including a tab at the bottom right on that app that takes you directly to our streaming video site, skywatchtv.com/stream, where you can watch Void Earth instantly in full HD. This app is available for iOS, Android, and Amazon Kindle Fire devices, and we've got links to their app stores at skywatchtv.com/app. You can follow 5 in 10 online, YouTube at 5 in 10, or X, formerly Twitter, at 5_in_10. And thank you for watching. As we keep watch, pray for the peace of Jerusalem. I'm Derek Gilbert. This is 5 in 10 from Skywatch TV.